Maybe place your hands on your belly. Maybe place your hands on the outside of your ribs. And just notice your breath as it moves through your body. Start to scan your body. Take note of any areas that you're holding tension. Maybe take notice of any areas where your breath feels like you're holding it in or that it's getting stuck. And consciously try to move your breath through those areas of tension. Try to make it even and smooth. On your inhale, fill up through your lungs, pausing at the top before exhaling fully. Take a few more cycles of breath, drawing your attention to your inhales and your exhales. And just letting go of any other thoughts or feelings you're bringing into practice. Maybe setting an intention to focus on your body, your breath, your mind for the next hour. Letting any other thoughts fall away and just focusing on yourself. On your next inhale, bring your arms overhead, stretch out through your toes if you're laying on the mat. If you're seated, come down to lying on your mat and come into a morning stretch. Maybe wiggle your fingers and your toes. On your next inhale, draw both knees into your chest. Give yourself a nice little hug. And then stretch both feet up towards the sky. Take a moment to pause here. Maybe start to point and flex your toes. If it feels good for you, you can rotate your ankles in one direction. And then the other. And then bring your legs back to stillness. Bend your left knee, cross your right ankle over your left knee. Clasp your hands behind your left hamstring, or if you have a little more flexibility, you can reach around and clasp your hands on the outside edge of your left shin. Come in to recline figure 4. Breathe into the stretch in your right outer hip. Stay here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. Make sure your right foot is flexed. And release your feet down to the mat. Take a moment to pause here and hug both knees into your chest. Extend both feet up towards the ceiling. Bend your right knee to a 90-degree angle. Cross your left ankle over your right knee. Remember to flex that left foot to protect your left knee. Clasp your hands behind your right hamstring or your shin. Take notice of any differences between your right side and your left. We tend to be a little off balance. One side is generally tighter than the other. Soften into the stretch. We're here for 2 more cycles of breath. And release both feet down to the mat. Take a moment to pause here. And then hug both knees into your chest. Extend both feet up towards the ceiling. Cross your right leg over your left, like you're sitting in a chair, crossing your legs. And then hug both knees in towards your chest. Reach your hands around and clasp your ankles or your shins, not your feet, and hug your ankles towards your hips. Your right thigh will be resting on your chest. Relax in. You should feel a deep stretch in your right outer hip. Remember to pull your ankles down towards your hips. We're here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. And release your feet back down to the mat. Take a pause here. Inhale, bring both knees into your chest, hug them in. And extend both feet up towards the sky. This time we're going to cross our left leg over our right. Hug both knees in towards our chest and reach for your ankles or your shins and hug your ankles down towards your hips. Take a few moments to settle in here. Your left thigh could be resting on your chest. Knees are stacked. Stay here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. And release. Bring your feet back down to the mat, knees pointing towards the sky. Hands are next to your hips. Take a moment to pause here. And then slowly lower your knees over towards the right side of your mat. Roll over onto your right side. And make your way up to a seated position. Pause here. Ground down through your sits bones. Sit up nice and tall. Hands can be resting on your knees. Take a moment to pause here. And stretch both arms out to a T. Reach your right arm across to your left side. Hook your left arm under your right. Hug your right arm in. Feel the stretch in your right shoulder. Take a few moments to settle in. We're here for 2 more slow, deep breaths. And release your arms back down to your knees. Stretch your arms back out to a T. Cross your left arm over to your right side. Hook your right arm under your left. Squeeze your left arm in towards your body. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And release your hands back down to the mat or down to your shins. Sit up nice and tall. And inhale, extend your arms overhead and bow forward. Place your hands on the mat in front of you. Keep your chin away from your chest. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. On your next inhale, slowly walk your hands over towards the right side of your mat, stretching out through your left side body. Keep your left sit bone rounded down. And slowly walk your hands back to center, bowing forward. And slowly walk your hands over towards the left side of your mat. Soften into the stretch in your right side body. Keep your right sit bone grounded down. Remember to breathe here. And walk your hands back to center, bowing forward. And slowly walk your hands back up. Come up to a seated position. Sit up nice and tall. And roll over onto your hands and knees. Come into tabletop position. Make sure your hands are shoulder width apart. Fingers are spread out nice and wide. Pointer fingers are pointing towards the top of your mat. Knees are in line with your hips. Toes are pointing towards the back of your mat. Take a moment to pause here. And then tuck your toes under. Lift your hips up and back. Come into down dog. Settle in here. Make sure your feet are hip distance apart. On your inhale, straighten through your arms. And on your exhale, try to lower your heels down towards the mat. Inhale, reach your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. We're going to set up here. Slowly lower your left heel down, bringing your toes out to about 35 degrees, so just slightly out to the left side. Slowly start to rise up. We're going to come into warrior one. Your arms can come overhead. Bring your hands together overhead into a prayer position. Gaze up over your fingers. Take a moment to pause here. Draw your belly in and up. If you're feeling any sensations in your neck, you can always bring your gaze forward. Take a few more slow, deep breaths here. And rotate your left foot to parallel to the back edge of your mat. Bring your arms out to a T, sink into warrior two. Gaze over your right fingers. Take a few slow, deep breaths here, settling in. Start to straighten your front leg. Hinge at your hips. Bring your right hand down to your shin or the mat. Left arm reaches overhead. Come in to Trikonasana, triangle pose. Gaze up over your left thumb. Stack your shoulders. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Bend into your right knee. Keep your right hand down on the ground and slowly bring your left arm in line with your ear. Come into extended side angle. You have the option to take a bind here or you can bring your elbow to your knee. We're here for 2 more slow, deep breaths. And slowly rise back up to warrior 2. Take a moment to pause here and windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel. Place your left hand on the mat. Extend your right arm overhead. Gaze up towards your right thumb. Straighten your back leg. We're here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. And bring your right hand back down to frame your front foot. Plant your hands. Step back to down dog. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Check in with your hands. Make sure they're shoulder width apart. And settle in. Extend your left leg high in the air. Thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. And slowly anchor your right heel down, spinning your back toes open to a 35-degree angle. Root down through your feet. Slowly rise up to warrior 1. Bring your hands together, extend your arms overhead, gaze up over your fingertips. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Pull your belly in and up. Rooting down through the soles of your feet. Bring your arms parallel to the mat. Slowly twist your right foot to parallel to the back of your mat. Come into warrior 2. Gaze over your left fingers. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And slowly straighten your left leg. Hinge at your hips. Bring your left hand down to your shin or the mat or a block if you have one. Extend your right arm overhead. Gaze up towards your right fingers. Stack your shoulders. Open your heart. Try to roll your right shoulder down your back. Remember to keep a micro bend in your left knee. We're here for 2 more slow, deep breaths. Bend into your left knee. Slowly bring your right arm in line with your ear. Come into extended side angle. Again, you have the option to bring your left elbow to your knee, or you can take a bind. We're here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. And slowly rise back up. Bring your arms parallel to the mat. Come into warrior 2. Take a moment to pause here. When you're in warrior 2, feel the pull of your right hand like someone's pulling your right hand back towards the back of the mat. And windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel. Keep your right hand planted down on the mat. Extend your left arm overhead, twisting open to the left side. Remember to keep that back leg straight. Try to square your hips. Stay here for 2 more slow, deep breaths. And bring your left hand back down to frame your front foot. Plant your palms on the mat. Step back to down dog. Take a moment to pause here. And come forward to plank. Engage your core. Squeeze your elbows in towards each other. And slowly lower all the way down to the mat. Untuck your toes. Hands are in line with your shoulders. Ground down through the tops of your quads, pushing the tops of your feet down in the mat. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Peel your heart up off the mat. Come into cobra. Take a slow, deep breath here. And then lower all the way back down to the mat. Tuck your toes and push back to down dog. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Inhale, reach your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Just take a moment, root down through the soles of your feet, and then slowly spin your left heel down, bringing your foot into that 35-degree angle, and slowly rise up to warrior one. Extend your arms overhead. Your arms can be overhead or your palms can be together overhead. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And slowly lower your hands back down to frame your front foot. Step your left foot up just a little and start to straighten your right leg. Inhale, halfway lift, spine long. Exhale, fold over that right leg, coming in to straight leg runner stretch. Try to square your hips. Pull your right hip back, bring your left hip forward. If your forehead rests on your knee, you can bring your hands back, pointing your fingers towards the back of your mat, resting your palms on the mat. If you brought your hands back, go ahead and bring them up to frame your front foot. And step your left foot up to meet your right, forward fold. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep, arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, circle sweep, arms to sky. Exhale, swan dive forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your palms on the mat, step back to down dog. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And inhale, reach your right or your left leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Root down through the soles of your feet. Slowly anchor your right heel down on the mat, spinning your toes out to the side. Ground down through the soles of your feet and slowly rise up to warrior one. Stretch your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Pull your belly in and up. Your palms can come together overhead, or your arms can be out shoulder width. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Try to sink into that left knee. And lower your hands down to the mat. Step your right foot up about a foot. Start to straighten your left leg. Bring your hips, your left hip back, right hip forward, squaring your hips. Inhale, straighten your spine, look forward. Exhale, fold over your left leg. Feel the stretch in your left hamstring. Again, if your forehead rests on your knee, you can always walk your hands back, fingers pointing towards the back of your mat, and fold forward. If you walked your hands back, go ahead and bring them back to frame your front foot and step your right foot up to meet your left. Fold forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Bring your big toes together. Leave a little space between your heels. Sink your hips down and back. Extend your arms overhead. Come into chair pose. Shoulders are away from the ears. You also have the option to bring your arms straight out in front of you or hands to heart center. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And fold forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, circle sweep arms to sky. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your hands down on the mat. Step back to down dog. Take a moment to pause here. Inhale, reach your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. And slowly rise up to high lunge. Arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Pause here. And spin your left heel down. Sink into your right knee. Bring your arms parallel to the mat. Come into warrior two. Take a moment to pause here. Flip your front palm. Reverse your warrior. Feel the stretch in your right side body. Gaze up over your right fingers. And slowly bring your arms back to parallel. Come into warrior two. Start to straighten your right leg. Hinge at your hips. Bring your right hand down to your shin or the mat. Left arm extends overhead. Come into triangle pose. Pause here. Remember to roll that left shoulder back, opening through your heart. You can gaze up over your left thumb, or if you have any neck issues, just keep your gaze straight. If you have a block, you might want to use it. We're going to come into half moon. If you don't have a block, that's totally fine. We're going to start to bend into our right knee. Place your right hand about a foot in front of your right foot, and your thumb is going to be in line with your pinky toe. Start to hinge forward and slowly open your left hip to the side. Extend your left arm overhead. You can always keep your left hand here at your hip. Your left foot is flexed and hip level. You can put your weight into your right hand. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And slowly lower your left hand down to the mat. Step your foot back, come into low lunge. Pause here. Plant your hands, step back to down dog. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Extend your left leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And then spin your right heel down. Bring your arms parallel to the mat. Sink into your left knee. Come into warrior two. Settle in here. Flip your front palm. Reverse your warrior. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And slowly bring your arms back to warrior two. Slowly start to straighten your left knee. Hinge at your hips. Place your left hand on your shin or the mat. Extend your right arm overhead. Come into triangle pose. Gaze up over your right thumb. Stack your shoulders, shine your heart towards the sky. We're here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. And slowly bend into your right knee. Place your left hand on about a foot in front of your left leg. Your left thumb is in line with your left pinky toe. Start to hinge forward. Bring your right foot up to hip level. Open your hip. Come into half moon. Extend your right arm overhead or on your hip. Feel tall through the left standing leg. Root down. We're here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. And lower your right hand down to the mat. Step your right foot back, come into low lunge. Root down through the palms, step back to down dog. Take a pause here. Look up towards your hands. Bring your hands together, thumbs touching. Inhale, reach your right leg high in the air. Exhale, bring your right foot to the outside edge of your right fingers. Your right foot should be parallel to the long side of your mat. Drop your left knee down to the mat. Untuck your left toes. Gaze over your left shoulder. Just make sure your foot is pointing straight back, that it's not sickling in. You can stay here, or you can drop down to your elbows. You can bring your elbows to the mat or a block. Hug your right knee in towards your shoulder. Your toes are pointing towards the top of your mat. Settle in. If your elbows are down on the mat, try to evenly distribute your weight between your elbows. The tendency will be that you'll have more weight in your left elbow, so try to put weight in your right. Take a pause here. We're here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. Tuck your left toes under. Lift your left knee off the mat. Pause here. And then slowly come up on to your hands, straighten your arms. Take a pause here. Bring your thumbs together, fingers spread out wide, step back to down dog. Pause here. Lift your left leg high in the air. Exhale, bring your left foot to the outside edge of your left hand. Bring your right knee down to the mat, untuck your right toes. Make sure your left foot is parallel to the long side of your mat. You have the option to stay here, or you can drop down onto your elbows. You can bring your elbows to the mat or a block. Hug your left knee in towards your left shoulder. Remember to make sure your right foot is pointing back towards the back of your mat. Remember to breathe here. We're here for 2 more slow, deep breaths. Plant your palms down on the mat, straighten your arms. Tuck your right toes under, lift your right knee off the mat. Remember to have your thumbs together and step back to down dog. Pause here and lower your knees back down to the mat. Come back into a tabletop position. Bring your knees out wide, big toes together, sink back, come into child's pose. Arms stretch out in front of you, forehead rests on the mat. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And on your next inhale, slowly rise back up to tabletop. And make your way into a seated position. Ground down through your sits bones. Stretch your legs out wide, come into a wide-legged seated position. Make sure you can take your hands on your thighs, slowly roll your thighs out towards the back of your mat. Make sure your legs are flexed. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, fold forward. Bring your hands down to the mat. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And slowly walk your hands in towards your body. Sit up nice and tall. Bring the soles of your feet together. Knees come out wide. Sit up nice and tall. Bring your hands behind you. You're going to slowly start to peel your heart forward. Your heart's going towards the sky. Tilt your pelvis. Lift your hips up closer towards your feet. And then sit up nice and tall. Grab for your ankles. Inhale, nice and tall. Exhale, fold forward. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And slowly rise back up. Come over to a seated position. Knees point towards the sky. Soles of your feet are down on the mat. Slowly lower all the way down into a supine position. Take a moment to pause here. Ground down through the soles of your feet. On your inhale, lift your hips up towards the sky. Squeeze your glutes together, come into bridge pose. You can interlace your fingers, walk your shoulder blades together. Open through your heart. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And release your hands, walk your shoulders out, slowly lower your hips back down to the mat. You can windshield wiper your knees from side to side if that feels good. Inhale, hug both knees in towards your chest. Extend both feet up towards the sky. You can stay here at legs up the wall, or you can take any inversion that's in your practice. You can come into plow, shoulder stand, headstand, whatever will serve you. I invite you to do that now. And hug both knees in towards your chest. Maybe rock side to side if that feels good. And come to stillness. Bring your knees to a 90-degree angle, shins parallel to the mat. Extend your arms out to a T and slowly lower your knees over towards the left side of your mat. Gaze over your right shoulder. Come into supine twist. You have the option to place your left hand on the outside edge of your right knee. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And extend your left arm back out straight. Slowly lift your knees up towards center. Pause here. And then lower your knees over towards the right side of your mat. Gaze over your left shoulder. You have the option to bring your right hand to the outside edge of your left thigh. Stay here for a few slow, deep breaths. And then slowly bring your knees back up. Hug your knees in towards your chest. Maybe rock side to side if that feels good. And then go ahead and grab for the outside edges of your feet or your hamstrings and come into happy baby. You have the option to take any other asana now that you need to do to complete your practice. And when you're ready, hug your knees into your chest and make your way into Shavasana or corpse pose. Maybe move any flesh out of the way so you're grounded down on the mat. Take a few moments to settle in. Start to notice the natural rhythm of your breath. Start to move your awareness through your body. Try to soften any areas where you're holding on to tension or feel resistance. Soften your eyes. Soften the space between your eyes. Soften your head against the mat. Release your neck and your shoulders. Relax your upper arms. Relax your forearms. Soften your wrists and your fingers. Soften your hips and your lower back. Release your hamstrings and your knees. Soften your calves and your ankles. Relax your feet. Soften your toes. Totally release and relax your body. Slowly start to deepen your breath. Maybe move your fingers and your toes. Maybe rotate your ankles and your wrists. And hug both knees in towards your chest. Place both feet on the mat and lower your knees over to the right side, rolling over onto your right side. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And make your way up to a seated position. Close your eyes, sit up nice and tall, and bring your hands to heart center. Take a moment to honor yourself for showing up, carving space out of your day to connect with your breath Move through your body. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me. The light in me sees and honors the light in each one of you. Namaste.